Jared Leto, my arch nemesis. An actor who has plagued me for years.
Well, he's got me by the balls, mamma mia.
I have a very visceral reaction to anything Jared Leto has ever done in the history of the world.
For a long time, there was a sequel discussed with Jared Leto as the lead.
I remember this. Ugh!
Dean loves Jared Leto.
I can't.
You're a big Jared Leto fan?
I hate Jared Leto.
Wow, the elephant shit in the jungle.
Everything he's in, I just can't stand him. His Joker was questionable. His Italian accent was awful.
Never confuse shit with cioccolato. They may look the same, but the taste very different. Trust me, I know.
Even in Blade Runner 2049, a movie I love, he was just so out of place and wooden. I at least enjoyed how his character ended up in American Psycho, though.
Hey, Paul!
But what about his new character, Dr. Michael Morbius? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. I'm Dean's Beans, and this movie was my Joker origin story.
Boof.
So, I've watched Morbius. I left the cinema less than an hour ago. I came home, talked about the movie the entire walk home with my friends, and then sat here to make this video. So I haven't had much time to think about the events of what's surely the biggest movie of the year, to my mental health. So I'm just going to give you my raw thoughts, and just to summarise my raw thoughts briefly for you. Bad. Okay, I'm going to start off with non-spoiler stuff, and then I'll get into spoilers. But little warning for you guys: I'm going to struggle to I'm going to struggle to spoil this movie for you because there's not a lot to spoil. Last night I was talking to my good friend and fellow TikToker Harlan Fluffy Duffy. I do a podcast with him. And I made a joke that I was watching the movie before him and I was going to text him all the spoilers. I do this with literally every movie I watch before him, which is most movies because I'm in the UK. And I said, oh yeah, I can't really spoil this movie for you because, what am I going to say? Oh, this happens and then this happens and this happens. And I explained the entire plot of Morbius to him, having not yet watched the movie. And then I go and watch the movie, and what I watch is exactly what I told him was going to happen in this movie. And I was right. I was right about everything. This movie is bad. Jared Leto is bad. I don't like it. And let's start there. Let's start with Jared Leto, a man who, as you can tell from the intro of this video, I adore. What a guy. No, he's not very good in this, but it's a weird performance for him because no matter what you think of his various performances and various things, I think we can mostly agree that pretty much everything he's in, he fully commits to. Whether it's sending Margot Robbie used condoms on the set of Suicide Squad or speaking in a god-awful Italian accent, I think we know which one of those two is worse. He just fully commits to all the roles that he does. But here, there was no commitment. It was just nothing. There was nothing there. He was a husk of a man walking through scenes, saying the lines. Now, the director of this movie, if you can call what he did direction, said that he never saw Jared Leto out of character. And I must ask, what character? There was no character there. It was just a guy. He was nothing. It was a husk, and it was completely not what I was expecting from Jared Leto, but somehow it was worse than a lot of his other performances because there was just nothing there. He was just a guy who I had no idea what his personality was. I had no idea what this character was. I had no idea what was going on. This movie is a short movie, relatively. It's about 104 minutes, I think, which is short, I suppose, for a lot of superhero movies. But you can tell they've cut a lot of stuff out. and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this movie should have been a little longer just so it actually made sense, you know. It's not like I wanted to watch any more of this movie. It's not like I wanted to sit through any more of this steaming pile of turd, but I would have done that if it made the movie make sense and it made me have any sort of attachment to any single character in this movie at all. Okay, let's talk about the action. It was. I was about to say it was fine, but there were few action scenes. There weren't many, and they were a little confused. It kept doing this thing where it would just quickly cut to slow mo, and I can kind of tell that that wasn't a director's original intention with these action scenes, because it was just so out of nowhere and it didn't really make sense, and you kind of had to squint to tell what was happening during the slow mo, and it was a bit blurry. It just didn't really work, and you know, it had some horror elements to speak of with, you know, this isn't spoilers, but the hallway with the most inconvenient lighting ever. I don't know. My problem with this movie is that I just didn't understand the character, so I just didn't care about anything else. The end action scene was nonsensical, and you're kind of like, oh, that's something that this character can do. I didn't realise there's something Michael Morbius can do. The main character's name is Michael Morbius. That's such a stupid name. Okay. Do I have anything else to say before I talk spoilers? Because I have thoughts. No, let's talk about spoilers. If you haven't seen this movie, click off. Just like before you go, because this movie took a lot out of me. Okay, so my main problem with this movie is that it kind of set up this dilemma for Michael Morbius of going, oh, to survive he has to drink red blood. He can't survive off this blue blood forever. So what is he going to do? Is he going to start killing people? Is he going to start drinking red blood? And how does this movie answer this question? It doesn't. The movie just ends. And you're like, oh, sure, he defeated the bad guy, if you can call Matt Smith a bad guy in anything he's ever done. But, oh, that was a joke. Sure, he's defeated the bad guy, but what's he going to do about, you know, this whole disease he's got? And is he going to start drinking blood? Oh, I don't know. Clearly he is, according to the nonsensical end credit scene, which we're going to get onto. But before that, it just is not referenced what his plan is about this whole thing. And the movie just ends. I'm like, oh, there's clearly... You just left his arc just... You know, his arc was this. Nothing. What was the resolution to that problem that this character had? The character's main problem, there was no resolution to it. And the movie just moved on and was like, oh, here's a big old scary vampire flying into the sky. Movie ends. The ending was cut short. The ending was too brief. And not only was the ending too brief, but the beginning was too brief. The middle was too long, and this movie should not have existed. But let's talk about the beginning, because you kind of cut to this point. You get a flashback with Morbius and Lucius, or Milo. I'm going to get in. Don't you worry. I'm going to get into that steaming garbage of a name. I don't have a problem with either names, but you'll find out why in a minute. So, where was I? Yeah, so you're introduced to these two characters, and you're like, oh yeah, they're friends, whatever. You see them for about 10 seconds, and Michael does some science, and he's like, wow, this guy's clever. I understand that about him, but I understand literally nothing else about him other than that he's clever, and he makes jokes about all his dead friends, which is fair enough. I guess he's had a traumatic childhood. But anyway, it then cuts to the future, and he's like, oh yeah, I'm trying to get a cure, blah blah blah. 10 minutes later he gets the cure, but that's besides the point. You've also got Milo, Matt Smith's character, who is rich inexplicably, still really good friends with him, and just, you know, just and I have no sense of who this character is either, because he was just put in the hospital and he was ill, and that was his one personality trait at the start of the movie, and also that he loved Michael Morbius. That was and which doesn't even carry on really into the present day. So I have no idea or sense of who this character is. And then you get to the scene where he's like, oh, I can't drink human blood, and Matt Smith's like, well, I'll drink human blood, and whatever. But like, I had no idea going into that scene that that's what these characters would have done. When Michael Morbius is like, oh, I can't drink human blood, I'm like, can't you? Is that not something this character, who I have no idea who you are, would do? And Matt Smith's like, yeah, I'll kill everyone. And I was like, that's also something we've had no sense of before this scene, Matt Smith. Matt Smith was good in this movie, just the writing was awful. I liked his little dancing. He had some good moments. I didn't like his face when it went all vampire-y. It looked weird. It worked better on Jared Leto. But, you know, it just didn't really look that good on Matt Smith. But he just started killing people, and that was his character. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is what you want? This is who you are? What happened to that thing about you loving Jared Leto more than anything in the world? Someone's got to What? It just didn't make any sense. But like I said, let's talk about this name thing. When Matt Smith, or his kid actor, I suppose, is brought into the hospital, he's like, "Hi, I'm Lucius." And Michael Morbius is like, "No, you're Milo." And he's like, "Why are you Milo?" "Oh, because the guy before was called Milo and he died. But his name wasn't actually Milo. There was someone before that called Milo who died. And there was an original kid who called Milo. And just every other kid who's been next to me since is dead. And you're called Milo now because of that." And he's like, "Oh, okay, you can name me after this dead guy who you've named all your friends after, you freak." And like, okay, that's fair enough. This kid's weird and he's calling him Milo. That makes sense. But everyone just accepts that for the rest of Milo's life. Literally everyone calls him Milo. Even that doctor who's in charge of this facility. Later on, when Milo is getting bullied and beaten up, he walks up and he goes, "Milo." Not his actual name, which is Lucius. Just go, "Oh, what's your name?" "Oh, I'm Milo." "Why is that?" "Oh, because there was this kid here before me called Milo and he died. And then there was another kid and this other weird guy who's got a thing about vampires just said, 'Hey, you're called Milo now.'" It just didn't make any sense, and I don't understand why it was a choice this movie made. Why was that an inclusion in this movie? Okay. Boring love interest. I just hit myself in the face because I'm so ferocious. Boring love interest. That was just what was going on there. Up until the moment that they kissed, I wasn't sure if they were like a romantic thing. And that isn't me going, "Oh, this is a nice will they, won't they? Oh, Ross and Rachel." I don't watch Friends. I don't understand the reference I just made. Oh, is this a fun thing to that? No, it was just me going, are they supposed to be a romantic thing, or what was this movie trying to do? And then they kiss. I'm like, oh, okay, that's what they're trying to do. Bear in mind, I do kind of like the idea of him having to suck her blood. I like that as an element. And then Matt Smith's all like, "Oh, well done, good sir. Clappy, clappy, clap." But then she'd woken up as a vampire, which didn't make any sense. What else happened in this movie? Because I don't remember. The two detectives, that was weird. How weird was the moment where Jared Leto jumped up onto the ceiling, like flying up those floors of stairs, and then he stands on the ceiling for like 10 seconds, and he turned around, and the detective's there with a gun, like, haha, I can't, what? That was, like, I was so confused in this cinema. I looked at my friend, and we were like, what the bloody hell is going on? And we laughed multiple times at lines such as, "Oh, you won't like me when I'm hungry." Oh, shut up. Just shut up, Jared Leto. I've had enough of you. Sorry for that outburst. What else is there to talk about? The end credit scene. The end credit scene made no sense, and I'm not going to talk about it too much because I feel like this is the bit of the movie that's going to be talked to death, like Venom 2. Why was Michael Keaton sucked into that universe? That's my first question. My second question is, why does he now hate Spider-Man? My third question is, how did he get the suit? My fourth question is, why and how did he contact Michael Morbius? And number 5, what's his team going to team up and do if they're stuck in this other universe, which probably doesn't have a Spider-Man in? Question number, I've lost count, is why did Michael Keaton agree to do this? And number 5, why did they cut out his previous scene in the movie that was in the trailer? And why did they cut out every other previous mention to Spider-Man? Was that something they just put in the trailers to excite people? Was it just a trick? Or was it them completely redoing this movie? Because that's another thing. They reworked this movie a lot. There was a lot of ADR, which is additional dialogue recordings, I think it stands for, where you re-record lines and then you put it over the back of someone's head like this. "Hi, I'm Dean and I'm a big idiot." No, that was actually me saying that. That wasn't recorded later. But you could record something nicer later and put that over the top. And there was a lot of that in this movie, especially with Michael Morbius explaining his powers. And then when the older doctor dies, he says, "You need to stop him." But watching that moment, I could distinctly see his lips were not saying "you need to stop him." I'm not sure what they were saying. And of course, in the final end credit scene, that clearly wasn't Michael Keaton there because he didn't take off the mask. I like the new suit. That's pretty cool. The problem this movie has is kind of the same problem that the first Venom movie had for me, despite the fact I prefer the first Venom movie to this. And it just doesn't commit to any idea. Oh, is this a horror movie? No. Is this a superhero movie? No. Is it a comedy? Definitely not. You should have got Jared Leto to do an Italian accent if you wanted to see that. It just didn't commit to any idea, and you're kind of just left feeling hollow and empty, kind of like Michael Morbius throughout the entirety of this movie, because that guy has zero personality. At least Matt Smith had a little bit of personality because he was dancing and stuff, but I still didn't understand his desire to kill people. That's nothing against Matt Smith. I love Matt Smith. Why are you putting him against Jared Leto? It's like, the thing I love most and the thing I hate the most. It just doesn't make any sense. Just like this movie didn't make any sense. That's it. That's the video over. I'm just done talking about Michael Morbius forever until I inevitably talk about him on my podcast. this week on Tuesday, coming out on Tuesday, midday UK time. So please check that out. But I don't want to talk about this movie. Okay, guys, I'm ending the video right here. Okay. Jared Leto, why do you do this to me? This is, I might just quit TikTok today. I've had enough. I've had enough of TikTok and YouTube and movies and superheroes, Jared Leto, Michael Morbius. Please just like this video and subscribe. Why have you got to do this to me? Thanks for watching, bye.